What is up, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and this is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Thank you guys so much for joining this special video, joining me on this special video, and I hope you enjoyed that special intro as we celebrate the Scottish warrior, Drew McIntyre, who did not come to bring peace, but a sword of Angela, if you will. You got to be spiritual to get that humor. But in any event, let's move on. As a custom on this channel, I give top 10 countdowns on special wrestler birthdays, and this is no exception. Let's get started with my top 10 favorite Drew McIntyre matches from the WWE. Obviously, he's had great matches in other places, but let's just start here with what we know so far. At number 10, we have Drew McIntyre along with Dolph Ziggler versus two-thirds of the Shield, Seth Rollins and Jon Moxley, formerly known as Dean Ambrose, at Hell in a Cell 2018. Now, Drew and Dolph were already tag team champions, Raw tag team champions, and this was one of their amazing bouts in which they went against the Shield and had so many near falls. But despite all of that, it was helped as Seth was going for the Falcon Arrow. Drew McIntyre would come in for the Claymore, and it was Dolph Ziggler who would get the pinfall for his team. But Drew did the work at the end. Number 9, we have Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross in a steel cage match at Crown Jewel of last year. This was a pretty good one, and this was a match that Drew McIntyre needed to win and would win despite help from the Jezebel, from the dark latex Jezebel wearing Scarlett. And of course, we have to admit Scarlett has played a role in the victory at Extreme Rules at the strap match, which Kross won. However, this rematch was the end all, be all, and Drew McIntyre would win. Again, despite the Jezebel Scarlett. Next on this list at number 8, we have Drew McIntyre versus the reigning, defending, undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Brock Lesnar. That was the best one I could do. Speaking of Paul Heyman impersonations, happy birthday to Paul Heyman's crush, Kayla Braxton, who also celebrates a birthday today. Moving forward, this match took place between Drew and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 36 in one of the most rough times in human history. No fans at WrestleMania, but it still was a pretty good one. It was quick, but it was good. How many F5s did Brock Lesnar give? And how many Claymores did Drew give? Lots of finishers within a 5-minute period. Nonetheless, it was Drew McIntyre who would hit a couple of Claymores, because you know you need to hit more than one finisher to keep the beast down. And it was to the face. Look at this face! But in any event, Drew McIntyre would win this match and become the WWE champion, and at the time, just like Roman Reigns, would go on to carry the company through hard times. Moving forward to number 7, another quick but good one. This was Drew McIntyre defending his WWE championship against Goldberg at the Royal Rumble. Now, I will say this. When Goldberg is good, he can he was the type of person that could give you 5 good minutes. And ironically, I said this in my first video. And this night would be the first time I would review WWE videos and would go on from there. But this match between Drew and Goldberg was really good. Goldberg was pretty good in this one. But then after that, despite all of that, it was Drew McIntyre who would go on to overcome Spears and go for a Claymore to win the match and defend his WWE Championship. And not only that, but earn the respect of Goldberg. And that was actually a good one to me. At number 6, we have Drew McIntyre versus Baron Corbin at WrestleMania 38. This was a good match on Drew's end for a couple of reasons. Despite Magic Mike Moss being at ringside, Drew did two things at the time. First, as I predicted, for those of you who followed me last year, I predicted that Drew McIntyre would not only be the first to kick out of the end of days, which no one had done at the time, but that Drew McIntyre would also defeat Corbin, Happy Corbin at the time, at WrestleMania. Both predictions I made came true. And after that, Corbin went into such a downward spiral. Bum Ash, ASH, Bum Ash Corbin went into such a downward spiral, highlighted at SummerSlam last year, and continued so badly. JBL couldn't save him, and now he had to go to NXT to find himself by attacking Carmelo Hayes. That's how much of a downward spiral Corbin is in. He had to go back to NXT. So what does that say? Moving forward to number 5, we have Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley at Backlash 2020, where trainees were fans. And the whole pay-per-view by itself really wasn't bad. And this was we talk about Edge versus Randy Orton, the greatest match ever. But this match was also pretty darn good. And this was a match where Drew McIntyre defended his WWE Championship. And he defended it against a man who attacked him during his entrance. And he couldn't, and he was fighting. Drew hadn't even got his jacket off yet. But once he got settled in, Drew McIntyre overcame Spears and all, and he still was able to defend his WWE Championship against the Almighty. And it didn't help that Bobby Lashley's then girlfriend, Lana, came and just ruined the whole darn thing. So that helped Drew also with the distractions. But it was a good match. Really good. I would encourage you to check it out. Next on this list, we have Drew's buddy, the Celtic Connection, because the other name that they used was an inappropriate name from a very inappropriate source of entertainment. So we have to call Drew and Sheamus the Celtic Connection, because that other name is reserved for something that is not condoned or endorsed. But do what y'all want to do. I ain't telling nobody what to do. I'm just saying I don't really agree with that type of stuff. Nonetheless, the banger guys, I think that's clean to say. Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus at Fastlane 2021 was a no-holds-barred match, and it was great. Also, kudos to Sheamus for coming back from being thrown into screens, and how he was not electrocuted was beyond me. I'm glad he wasn't. We also saw Drew come back from taking the white noise through a table. And of course, cool face paint by Drew McIntyre, the Braveheart face paint, which Triple H also did when he did his parody of WrestleMania the last time WWE went to Hollywood in 2005. I was around 10 and a half when that happened. But in any event, this match was brutal, but it was awesome. These two, Sheamus and Drew, make the best of friends, make the best of partners, and the best of rivals, which we saw in a triple threat match at this year's WrestleMania, which is an honorable mention on this one. Moving forward to number 3, we have Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. No, not Sheamus. Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns at Clash at the Castle. For those of you who saw the intro to this, you know that many people loved the Broken Dreams special entrance during that night, which I miss. But God forbid he becomes a villain and he brings that back, people are actually gonna like it, which is gonna defeat the purpose, which is to be dislikable. However, this was a match that that many say Drew McIntyre should have won. It was a very epic match. This match, a lot of great matches took place that night, including Sheamus versus Gunter. But this was the main event, and it was awesome. We saw Drew take moves from Roman Reigns, spearing him twice. Nonetheless, despite being speared twice, Roman Reigns had help winning this match, mostly from his remaining bloodline member, Solo Sikoa, who is the only one left in the bloodline, because I am predicting right now, off topic, I predict that Jey Uso will stand with his brother, Jimmy Uso. That is my prediction. I predict that Jey will go with Jimmy. That's my SmackDown prediction. Back to the Drew McIntyre celebration. This was a losing effort, but it was still a great match, and I encourage you to check that out as well. I also put this on my top 10 favorite Roman Reigns matches recently, and that was part 2. Now moving on to number 2 on this list, we have Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton at Clash of Champions 2020. Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre had a great rivalry, in which Drew McIntyre was victorious for most of it. This was one of them. This match here, we saw, keep in mind, Randy Orton had made a lot of enemies and took down a lot of legends and reinforced himself as the legend slayer. However, all the legends that Randy Orton had wronged came back to get him. Big Show put him through the table. Christian attacked him. And then if that was not enough, when Randy Orton had the match won, now we can't stand Christian, by the way. When Randy Orton had the match well at hand, sweet chin music from Shawn Michaels, and then shoved off the top of the ambulance onto a table. But Drew McIntyre, with help from all the legends, will go on to win this match. And guess who was driving the ambulance? None other than Ric Flair, who Randy Orton had recently in the past punt kicked in the skull. Let's go to number 1. This match took place at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3 2017, and that was between himself and the glorious Bobby Roode. First off, get well soon, Bobby. And with your surgeries and injuries and everything, get well soon. Well wishes to you. This match was between Drew and Bobby Roode was the NXT champion. And if you read his lips during the match, he proclaimed it to be his NXT. Drew McIntyre, who had a pretty cool entrance that night, said otherwise. And as great, with the match being so well, it ended with a Claymore and Drew McIntyre winning his first NXT championship. However, unfortunately for Drew that night, the celebration was ruined by the debuting Undisputed Era featuring Adam Cole. But Drew McIntyre would get his revenge in a special match with Shawn Michaels as the special guest referee, in which Drew would defend the championship successfully against Adam Cole. Baby. But let me know, what is your favorite Drew McIntyre match from WWE and NXT? And also, feel free to tell me which match from the independent scene, such as Defiant Wrestling or TNA, was also your favorite. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll be back with another review on all things wrestling. And that's all the time I have for you today. And I'll see you again soon, folks. Peace out.